All right. Okay, fantastic. Thank you everyone for joining us for the Childcare Paradox. We are going to be talking about advocacy for rights for childcare providers. But before we did anything today, I want to go ahead and take a moment of silence for the victims of Robb Elementary School and the tragedies that happened yesterday. So if we could all just bow our head and be silent for a minute, that would be great. Thank you so much. I want to thank everyone for joining us today. I just want to quickly go over a little bit of an agenda of what we have planned for you. First, we're going to do some introductions and why we are doing this event. Then we're going to talk about a couple of different agencies and that are kind of like major players impacting the industry right now. We're going to talk about insurance carriers, how they are kind of letting providers down. We're going to talk about childcare licensing. We're going to talk about CCR&Rs and unfortunately, how the childcare industry is not able to regulate itself, but it's more that the states are regulating us. We're going to talk about why the childcare industry is so important, why the first 5 years of a child's life are so important. And I know many providers already know all of this. And then we're going to talk a little bit about Daycare, our childcare watchdog program, childcare thought leaders, and a couple of sponsors that are very interested in talking to you. So I'm going to go ahead and let Jordan Silverman, the CEO of DC Insurance, go ahead and introduce himself first while I admit a few more people into the room. Before anything, I just want to say Jordan has been one of the biggest advocates for Daycare and the work that we do for childcare providers. He is really an amazing friend to the industry. So Jordan, please go ahead.
Thank you so much, Akriti. I really appreciate it. And thank you everybody for joining today. We will get to a little slide.
Jordan, I think we've lost your audio.
Sorry about that. Akriti, thank you for the introduction. I appreciate it. And thank you everyone for joining today. We will get to a slide on insurance and hopefully address some issues that are going on in the industry that will address people's concerns. But before I let Akriti get into it, one of the things that I wanted to address is there may be many of you who joined today in regards to a notice you may have received in the mail. There's been a lot of misinformation right now regarding that notice. So you may have received a notice from the insurance carrier saying a notice of non-renewal. We tried to combat this by sending a letter to everyone explaining what that notice of non-renewal is, and that you will get your renewals in the mail 30 to 45 days in advance of your renewal date, just like you always have. That notice is required by law by an insurance carrier whenever there is a carrier change or whenever a carrier is withdrawing a product from the marketplace. Somehow that gets misinterpreted as we're no longer providing childcare insurance, but this happens once every 5 to 20 years. It happened in 1990, it happened in 2000, it happened in 2018, and now it's happening again in 2022. So anyone who was joining this concern thinking that their childcare insurance was getting canceled or non-renewed and that they wouldn't have any opportunity to get other coverage, that is incorrect. So if that was your concern, you don't have to worry about that. We will address it a little bit more in detail when we get to the insurance slide. But for now, I did just want to address that at the very beginning, just in case there was anyone who was like, oh, okay, like really worried about that. And that was the only reason why they came. So thank you very much. And Akriti, I'll let you take it from there. Oh, now you're muted, Akriti. Now you're muted.
There we go. All right, sorry about that. Hello, everyone. My name again is Akriti Srivastava. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Daycare. But before all of that, I was a licensed childcare provider for many years. I ran my own small family daycare in Pleasanton, California. I actually started out of an apartment, grew it into a house. It was one of the best things I ever did with my life. And I had a tech background, and I immediately saw a lot of the problems that childcare providers were facing with licensing, with CCR&Rs, with not being able to be found by parents. Parents also kind of not being able to find childcare providers. They're always struggling to find the care that they needed. And so that's why I created Daycare. And that's actually how I met Jordan, is because, we found along the way that we've reached out to licensing, and we've reached out to, government agencies to point out the things that we've seen as being wrong or broken in the childcare system. But really, it's fallen on deaf ears, and it feels like nobody's willing to do anything because there's really no reporting agency. There's no one to watch over for providers. And the childcare industry is a very unique industry in that sense. They don't govern themselves like other industry. Look at the healthcare industry. 50, 60 years ago, the states controlled all the healthcare industry, but the healthcare industry got so big that they basically said, no, we're going to govern ourselves and create our own standards that are higher and better, and we're going to unify ourselves. And that is not something that's happened within the childcare industry. And so we wanted to put this event together to give providers a voice. If you're on this call because you're frustrated, you've been wrong, you feel like you've been bullied, we understand your pain. We are here to listen to you today, and we're here to provide some solutions in regards to what we're going to be doing. We know that childcare licensing has become more of an obstacle rather than an ally to providers. We hear stories all the time. Jordan and I work with providers all over the country, and we hear stories all the time of licensing tricking providers, or analysts making an analyst tells you to come over here because they don't want to be on camera, and then they write you up because you walked away from the children. So we're hearing a lot of these things, and it's there's no recourse for providers because they can only report these people to the licensing agency and nothing ever comes about it. So we wanted to do something, we really wanted to do something to assist providers and create more of a database and information system for us. Childcare referral agencies are also, they're hindering us. The state kind of tells you to rely on these CCR&Rs to fill your daycare. And the fact of the matter is they hide your information and they make it hard for normal parents to find you. And this is kind of done in order to keep childcare subsidy rates low. So essentially it's done to basically keep providers dependent on the system without being able to earn an equitable wage for themselves. And we'll talk a little bit more about that later. Insurance carriers are also refusing to underwrite policies for providers, which is hurting the industry more and more as less insurance agencies are able to give providers for the policies that they need. And Jordan's going to talk about that. So actually, I'm going to turn it over to Jordan, and he's going to go ahead and fill everyone in on what's going on with the insurance industry.
Thank you so much, Akriti. So the first thing that I want to inform everybody is that we are seeing a lot of changes in the childcare industry from the perspective of insurance. First and foremost is that there's fewer and fewer carriers every year that are willing to insure providers. Now, the reason for this is there's very many reasons for this, and we're going to address those here in just a moment. So right now with is this just on a loop? I'm sorry. There we go. So the first and foremost is that insurance companies are getting a little more advanced in terms of their underwriting. So back in the day, it used to be if you were licensed, they knew that you were following all of the guidelines that you need to be following in order to perform at a high level as a child care provider. As the years gone on, you may have noticed things happening like, oh, no more.
Oh, come on over here and we'll put these things on your.
You may have noticed things like, oh, no more trampolines over time, because if there's a claim that happens from trampolines, they're going to exclude them. Or no more swimming pools, because if there's a claim that happens from swimming pools, we don't want to write swimming pools. Well, now it's translating more and more to things like citations. So insurance carriers are looking at your licensing background, seeing if you have citations, seeing if you have very specific citations. They're looking to see if you have allegations of child abuse, whether or not they were substantiated or not. They're even asking if you've had a bankruptcy in the past. And they're also looking at certain operational choices you have. So for example, there's many childcare providers out there who have assistants, and sometimes it might be a 17-year-old that you have living in the house helping you out, or something of that nature. Well, they're asking now even, hey, the people that are helping you out, are they 18 years old or older? These are all things that they feel are going to contribute to you possibly having a claim in the future. Now, you might be asking, well, why all of a sudden is it like this? Well, generally these things kind of happen over time, but mostly the reason why it's happening a little bit faster than you might realize is because there was probably 1 year within the past 5 years where there were a whole bunch of claims in the industry across the nation at one time. And this is a very, very small group of people across the nation for there to be so many claims happening at one time, especially high dollar claims. And that's where we get into what I like to call the premium disconnect. So the premium disconnect in the world of childcare providers, you might see your insurance premium for childcare insurance and think, oh my gosh, $1,200, $1,300, $1,400, that's so expensive, because you're looking at just the dollar amount. But when you compare this to other types of insurance coverage that you may even have now, like your auto insurance or your homeowners, there's no insurance out there where you're getting $1 million worth of insurance coverage for $1,500 a year when you're taking care of 8 or 14 children at a single time. So when we look at the average claim of a child care loss, the average is talking about like something like $32,000, whereas the average auto insurance claim in California, I believe, is $800. So you're talking about spending very similar money for an auto insurance policy, where you're only getting $30,000 of coverage a year, and you're only having a claim of $800 if you have to have a claim. Whereas with childcare insurance, you're having a claim that's $30,000, and you're paying about the same amount of money as you were for your auto coverage. So that's where the premium disconnect is. And from an insurance carrier perspective, the insurance carrier is looking at that and they're going, we're giving these people $1 million coverage for only $1,400. Why do we want to do this? If one person has a claim for $1 million, then, oh my God, like, we're not going to make any money. What if 5 people have a claim for $1 million? We're not going to make any money. And the average provider probably thinks, well, hey, if all of the providers are purchasing insurance, then it doesn't matter how many claims there are because they're going to make money. Well, unfortunately, in the state of California, there's not many providers actually purchasing insurance coverage. And that's where this kind of leads us to this idea of losing leverage. So we, as an insurance advocate, broker, we're losing a lot of leverage with the insurance carriers. So back in the day, we used to have all of the leverage, all of the pull with the insurance carriers, because we would say to them, hey, we've got a group of all of these childcare providers, and they want to have insurance with you. And the insurance carriers would be like, okay, great. We want to do whatever it is we can do to make them happy because there's so many of them. But over time, they've said, hey, there's 30,000 providers in the state of California and only 5,000 of them or 10,000 of them are purchasing insurance. That's not enough. That's not enough to sway us. What do we care? We're in this business to make money. And I don't mean to sound like, rude or like the insurance companies marginalizing childcare providers, but in a sense they are. I mean, you have to look at it from their perspective where they're in this to make money. And the way they look at it is we're not going to make money unless childcare providers buy insurance and don't have claims. So for us to be able to help the industry, we need to have leverage. We need to be able to entice the insurance carriers to give us what we want by saying we're going to have a lot of providers that are going to purchase this coverage and a lot of providers that aren't going to have massive, horrible claims. So there's a lot of different ways that we can discuss about how we would do that. But I personally think that the number one way that we go about, changing the industry for the better is finding a way to unify and get everybody connected in an industry standard way. As of right now, and I'm sure Akriti will be able to speak to this a little bit more, but as of right now, I really do feel, and I've always felt that childcare providers, especially in the state of California, are a little too spread out. There's no one conduit where everyone comes together, where everyone is reachable. There's no one Instagram account that everyone's a part of. There's no one forum that everyone's a part of. And, I think that's the first step, at least for us, to be able to, take this first step and trying to advocate to get for you guys everything that you want. So I'll be happy to field any questions that anyone has specifically about insurance in the chat. I'll also put my email address in the chat. So if anyone wants to email me directly with any questions that you might have, you can feel free to do that.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Jordan. So yes, providers, if you have any questions, please feel free to go ahead and put them in the chat and we will try to get to them at the end of the presentation. Okay, so next I'm going to talk about childcare licensing. And the system is broken in a lot of different places and it starts with childcare licensing. I see a bunch of people have written up there about the CCR&Rs, that they're not getting calls from them, they're not getting business, that, the CCR&Rs are opening their own childcare facilities that are giving low subsidy rates. And it all starts at the beginning, right? I remember when I went to become a licensed childcare provider, the first thing I realized I was a small family daycare and my information didn't actually show up online, right? So right at the state level, think of this, if you are in the state of California, you are not allowed to have any signage outside of your house that says that you are a daycare. Now, licensing tells you, when you sign up and register to become a licensed childcare provider, licensing says to you, the CCR&R will help you fill your daycare. They don't tell you to get online. They don't give you the proper marketing tools. They basically want you to be dependent on the CCR&Rs so the CCR&R can feel the flow of information, right? And I want you to think about, what are parents doing, right? When a parent is searching for childcare, a parent who does not need subsidy care, right? If they go to this website and you're not on Yelp and you're not on Facebook and you're not findable on Google, how are they even supposed to know your family childcare name? In most places, they actually ask you for a license number. If they don't know you exist, how can they know that you have, how can they know your license number, right? And it's one of the craziest things. And Jordan, again, we tried to reach out to officials and we said, this is where the system is broken. And no one seemed to want to do anything. In fact, if anything, it was very bureaucratic and people were very defensive about it. So then if you kind of look at the CCR&Rs, right? This is one of the forms for a CCR&R. So if you're an average parent who just wants childcare, there's like 5 steps to finding a daycare in here, and I still didn't find care when I actually went through the process. But they want to know where your employer is. They want to know what your profession is. They want to know so much information, and most parents don't even think about it, right? They have no idea how many childcare facilities are around them. So they basically go to Google and you are discouraged from going online, you're discouraged from, if you're in the chat, I don't know if your analyst ever told you, don't share your rates with anybody, don't post your rates online, right? It's something that we commonly hear, and it's actually not true. And this is why this is done. When we first started with Daycare, we ran a survey, and we found that majority of providers who were with the CCR&Rs barely got calls. They wouldn't get calls for a month. They wouldn't get referrals, right? This isn't in the Bay Area where it's Pleasanton, California, where it's a little bit like higher to medium income range, right? Meanwhile, my daycare was on Yelp. I used to get like 17 calls for childcare a day. I was also charging about $100 more per week because I wasn't taking any subsidy care parents at that time. And I was charging $100 more per week because that was the standard industry rate. So by telling you, by telling you to hide your rates, they're actually doing price fixing in the market. Because the fact of the matter is, if that providers stop depending on the CCR&Rs and just market themselves like online where parents could find you in one location, the market would level itself and childcare subsidy rates would be so high that it would cost the states a lot of money, right? Now, all of a sudden, they have to pay these providers like living cost of wage, which is $125 more per week sometimes. So this is where the CCR&Rs and the childcare licensing are essentially manipulating the system. And they basically, even though we have rules written for providers with licensing, everything just comes down to what your analyst says, right? Isn't that the joke, right? It doesn't matter what anyone tells you. It doesn't matter what any advice anyone tells you. It's all about your analyst and what they say. So this is where the system is failing. And this is just a little graphic to show you how everything works. And this is, every state is different. And that again is one of the things we're trying to change with Daycare. Some of the states that have the most loosey-gooseyest childcare licensing rules, or they don't have the most efficient childcare licensing, they have the worst or the highest high school dropout rates. They have, the highest teenage pregnancies. They have the lowest bachelor degrees, right? These things all go hand in hand. Early education is that silver spoon a child gets. It is a gift, and every child should have it because it really sets them on the pace for the rest of their life. So in California, we have small family and large family homes. Large family requires a permit, so they're a little bit more easy to find, but majority of providers are small family home providers. And essentially, the CCR&Rs filter your information. They don't, if I was to call a CCR&R today and say, could I get a list of all the childcare facilities in the area? One, they wouldn't know it because not every facility is registered with them. And two, they would not just give you the list that they have. You would have to, first they'd want to know who you are, this is it, and which is crazy because your businesses, it's not like you have to show your address, you could just provide a phone number. Why are they keeping your information private? And this is done so other parents can't find you, so you can keep your rates low, right? Versus centers, which are commercial, right? They're very viewable. They've got, this is what's given the rise to centers and why childcare rates are getting so expensive. Here we have small family receiving subsidy care only business. And here we have the centers, which are very visible online. They're very visible in the public eye, and they're getting all the business, and making childcare rates higher. So the first 5 years of a child's life are the most important years of a child's life. They learn everything. Reading, writing, self-soothing, healthy habits, sharing, consequences. I'm preaching to the choir here. I know you all know these things, right? So imagine a system where childcare is getting harder and harder to afford, and most children aren't properly socialized, and they're being raised by devices instead of human beings who can teach them good skills and values and manners and how to socialize and how to share. There's something, we're all feeling the pain of what's going on in this country. And yesterday was a very sad day. And it makes you wonder, where are we dropping the ball? And I think we're dropping the ball very early on when we don't allow children to get into the early childhood education system. And so when we deprive parents of affordable childcare, when we deprive parents of the information of the childcare facilities that are actually around them, we are hurting our young. Like, we are hurting our infrastructure and our ecosystem. So, as Jordan mentioned, there is no one place to unite us. And that is why I created Daycare. And actually, I'm just going to go ahead and take you over to the site. Hopefully you can still see my screen. So this is what Daycare does, guys. We're taking the CCR&Rs out of the system. I created Daycare to be a bridge between parents and licensed childcare providers. Daycare is 100% free to register for parents and 100% free for your childcare facility all the time. We do not charge providers anything. Daycare is meant to help parents find your childcare facility. All of this is completely free for you to create. You can create a profile for your daycare. You can tell them about your program. You can list your amenities. You can list your opening hours. Notice we don't show, like, unlike Yelp, we don't show your address. Your Yelp requires, this is why a lot of providers are not on Yelp, because they make you show your home address. It's only a phone number and your city and state and your facility license number. Also, if you're a provider, you can list your real-time openings on Daycare. Unlike the CCR&Rs who have to manually fill your spots all the time, technology is taking us into the next step. A parent could literally come in and Jordan always calls it crowdsourcing for childcare, which is basically taking one spot and splitting it up between multiple parents. I actually used to do this in my own daycare up until last year, which was basically 2 or 3 parents could split a week between them. And they can go in here and just select the spot that they need, and it's all automated. They can pay with a card. You get a cancellation protection fee. They can also accept cash and check. And again, 100% free. If a parent is paying you cash and check, they don't pay any fees at all. Aside from that, they pay the card fee. But we created Daycare to be this bridge. And it is, again, you just have to go to daycareall.com. I'm going to send you the links later. And please register, because together we are strong. If parents are just able to go to one location and find all the childcare, and if we are all on one thread and we can communicate with each other, we can now create an industry standard. And this event today is the first of doing that. So, coming back into here, oops. The next thing I want to talk to you about is why you need to be on Daycare. The other thing is because we need to band together so we can advocate for the childcare industry. So we've created something called the Childcare Watchdog. And this is probably a long time overdue, because this is the one thing that keeps providers down, is we have no recourse. If you've been wronged by an analyst, if an insurance company, is not bidding you, or something has happened, if let's say you're a teacher at a facility, at a center, and you see that they're over ratio and you report them, you shouldn't get fired. You're protected. You have rights. As business owners, we have rights, and we should be able to band together someplace and be like, okay, this is happening to me. Can somebody help me? And it shouldn't be Facebook. And this is what we're trying to do with the Childcare Watchdog. This is a data analysis or data collection analysis and advocacy program. Here's what we are trying to do. We want you to come onto this site and submit your complaint or suggestions. If something that has happened to you, we want to start collecting this information, and we want to start putting it together into a quarterly report until it gets big enough, because data doesn't lie. And that's what we're trying to do here. We're not trying to assess the system. We're not giving a solution. We're trying to map out clearly which agencies are causing the biggest issues. So, for example, we could have lots of people coming in from Texas speaking out one particular licensing agency in one particular county talking about one particular agent doing the same thing over and over again. And that is how we get stronger and how we can advocate for each other, right? When we start speaking in volumes, when we start saying that this is an issue and you've got 100,000 providers strong saying, yes, this is an issue. This has happened to me too. Now we're united. And this is what's always been missing in the childcare industry. And then we want to take this data, we want to take it to lawmakers, we want to take it to people, and we want to make sizable changes for childcare providers. And the next thing, we have a couple of different programs that we have going on, and I'm going to be sending everyone an email after this meeting, and you're going to be able to see a lot of these things. I am no longer a licensed childcare provider, but we want to build something for childcare providers. We want to give you the tools and resources you need to be better. And I know a lot of people are on this call because they have an opinion. They feel that things should be different, and they should be different. So we've created a childcare thoughts leaders platform where if you feel that you've faced something, you've overcome it, or if you see something that can be done better, if you see a path forward and you would like to get involved, we'd love to hear from you. As we build out our product, we do it with you in mind. And again, Daycare is 100% free for you. Automated receipts, year-end reporting. And why are we doing all of this? We're doing all of this because, again, we want you to be the best at what you are doing, but also to help you be successful. The number one reason childcare providers lose a lawsuit is because they're not organized. They didn't have their paperwork in order. They didn't have certain things, like there's no leadership for us, right? Like when I became a small family childcare provider, it was like 16 hours of coursework, which you didn't get tested for. And, there really wasn't much. That was it. I speak with providers all the time who don't know how to get an EIN. A lot of providers don't know they should need insurance because there's no guidance for us. And that is one of the biggest things we need to change. We need to have guidance for childcare providers. We need to provide them with a plan forward. And if you're interested in joining us, we want to hear from you. At the end of this, I'll throw the link up for this, and you can just simply sign up and we'll give you a call and take it from there. One of the things that we're trying to do, again, is in the childcare industry is we're trying to give providers the tools that they need and the access to information that they need. Daycare is 100% free for licensed childcare providers, but we do have partners. And one of our partners, aside from DC Insurance, is Neurona Health. And I wanted to bring this up because I think it's so important. We spend a lot of time on Facebook groups, and I know one of the things that kind of always was a concern for me is when you see a child who's developmentally different or falling behind, it's hard to have those conversations with parents. Parents often get upset. I've lost children over it. And we recently partnered with Neurona Health, and they're offering mental telehealth subscriptions for licensed childcare providers. So you don't have to have those difficult conversations with parents. You can just kind of pawn it off to them. So basically you sign up for one of their services and you can speak with a professional, a licensed childcare, a medical childcare children's professional in order to get advice on how to handle a situation. They are not diagnosing anyone, but if you need to have, if you're concerned and you need to have the child see somebody, you can always have Neurona Health reach out to the parent and kind of take it from there. And so I've spent the last 6 years to build this company, and it is completely bootstrapped. And I do it because I'm passionate about change and I'm passionate about this industry. And I believe that a lot of things can change if we just change the childcare industry and how we help children, if we can support parents. So do us a favor, guys, even if you're slightly interested, give these guys a call, because this is how we build the technology that you are using. So free invoicing, free, all the stuff that we're giving away for providers. If you're interested in having this kind of service, please reach out to Neurona Health. And lastly, I want to talk to you guys about Force of Nature. If you're on this call today, Force of Nature would love to give you a free Force of Nature kit when you register with Daycare. And this is just one of the advocates we have for the childcare industry. If you're not familiar with Force of Nature Force of nature is a little device that turns water, vinegar, and salt, and it ionizes it, and it turns it into a solution that's safer than bleach. It's so safe that you can actually spray it right around children. It's 100% non-toxic. It is EPA approved, and it is changing the licensed childcare industry because we don't have to have toxic chemicals around our children, which can, if you have a child who has an asthma problem and you cannot use bleach around them, how are you supposed to sanitize? Well, this is the answer. And Force of Nature, they're passionate about improving the childcare industry. They are willing to actually give away a Force of Nature that registers to every daycare that registers on our facility. So please register with daycareall.com. You'll get, once we approve or verify your license number, you'll get a call probably from me saying your facility's improved, and I'll ask you if we can ship you a Force of Nature, and that's it. No card required. They'll pay for the shipping too.
Really quick, Akriti, will the Neurona Health, does it matter what kind of insurance coverage you have, or if you have insurance coverage at all?
No, absolutely. You don't need any insurance coverage at all. Neurona Health is just like a medical telehealth service, and you're just paying the flat fee, and they're giving you advice. They're not diagnosing anything. So it would almost just be like, I'm seeing this behavior. What can I do? And if you need to take it, if the behavior keeps escalating, then, definitely the parents can reach out to them. Then the parents can set up whatever they need to with Neurona Health, and that's their deal. But we're giving the first step to providers, which is basically like, I'm seeing an issue, and I want to know the best way to deal with it, including reaching out to parents and how we should handle this.
And also, I did just want to say that I personally use the Force of Nature also, and it is really awesome.
Yep.
So if you're on the call, definitely get yourself that free one, because it's great. Like, it really is cool. It's simply white vinegar and like iodized salt, like that's blended together in a special machine, and you bottle it up, and it's a multi-purpose cleaner that's non-toxic and great and all that stuff. So definitely check it out. I did also, Akriti, want to bring to your attention in the chat, I'm not sure if you saw it, there were a couple of people who mentioned that recently there was a law that passed that a business permit is no longer required for large licensed providers, which is awesome. So I did just want to make you aware of that.
I appreciate that. Thank you. But by the way, that makes it even harder for parents to find you, because when you have a business permit, you're at least listed. So if you're a large family daycare, the same rules apply. The business permit actually, so if you go on the state website, they actually show large family childcare information. I wonder if that's going to change now. They don't require a business permit. That'll
certainly be interesting.
Yeah.
I did also want to address one other thing in the chat, a question someone had about what the insurance slide, and saying that, everything I was saying is basically just a justification to raise the rates. And I think that's certainly a fair comment. And I did want to address that because, frankly, for us, I don't care how much the insurance is, whether it's $10, whether it's $1,000. It doesn't matter to me. What matters to me is getting people insured and protected. And there won't be an insurance company to provide you coverage at any amount if they all keep leaving the industry because people aren't buying it. So to keep it bluntly, that's really it. I want to keep insurance available for providers so that they always have protection in the event they do get sued. I want there to always be a resource for them available for that. We don't get to set the rates. I do know that when we did actuarial analysis with a very big firm, they took a look at years upon years worth of data, and they calculated to see exactly how much the premium should be for the claims that are occurring. And when they ran that, and this was probably 4 or 5 years ago, when they ran that, they actually came out that the insurance should be a base premium of about $1,500. So it's substantially more than what it is now. I hope never gets to be that much. I hope it never gets to be more. But again, we always want there to be the availability of the coverage. And the best way we maintain the availability of the coverage is by providers purchasing it. So I did just want to address that. Another question that someone had was, as a group child care center, how would I know that I need workers' comp? Is there a resource I can call to find out what insurance I need and payroll systems? That's a great question. So in the state of California, if you have more than one employee, you are required to carry workers' comp. So unless it's just you, you do need to have it by law. There's a few different ways you can do that. You can actually just reach out to our office and we can actually assist you with that. We have a questionnaire on our website that you can fill out and we can get that for you. We can also direct you to a couple of other resources in regards to workers' comp. So feel free to check out our website or give our office a call and we'll be able to assist you with that.
Thanks, Jordan. I'm going to take a question too. I think it's Tessie Reagan. So when I mentioned that analysts tell you not to show your rates because they don't want you price fixing. So we had 2 years ago, we actually had Janice Mendel. She is a childcare attorney and advocate, and she explained this to us at length, which is basically that's what they tell you, but that's actually not what the law is. The law is that childcare providers cannot get together as a group and say, I'm going to charge $350. We're all going to charge $350 a week, and that's it. You can't get together as a group and do price setting. There's no law saying you can't show your rates. In fact, that's what they're telling you, like you shouldn't tell your rates, but the fact of the matter is you can actually tell your rates. If you told your rates, the market would settle itself. Does that make sense? So basically, we're not, there's something called the Childcare Paradox, is basically that childcare rates have outpaced inflation since 2009, but providers as a whole are doing worse than ever. And that's because the states are not, and CCRs are not allowing the market to settle, right? Because they're holding all these daycare's information back and making them reliant on subsidy care versus the ones who don't take subsidy care are basically, they're able to set their own rates and they get paid more. And by the way, somebody else said, is this something that would overall benefit private pay? Here's why this is done and why the system does this is because what the states allocate for subsidy care is nowhere near what childcare rates are. So they would have to raise the amount of money they put into subsidy care. And Jordan and I, we met last week, and there's all this grant money that's out there. There's all these funds, and providers are having a really hard time getting to it and accessing it. And that's the thing. Like, there's a big question to be asked here: is where's the money? Where's the money going? The CCR and Rs are not government entities. They are nonprofits, and so it's a big question that we're asking: is that it serves them in the sense that they're able to kind of set the rate for what subsidy care would be. And it's not okay. And by the way, at Daycare, another question somebody asked was, how is this different than Bright Wheels or whatnot? At the forefront, we give providers invoicing and bill payment because they need protection. Not everyone is going to afford a Bright Wheel or something like that, or ProCare. At the forefront, what Daycare does is that we want parents to be able to find all the daycares that are out there. So if you do nothing but just create a profile for your daycare, put up your information, put up pictures, and be like, you don't even have to put up spots, but just be like, this is my daycare and I am available, right? That in itself would serve a lot of purpose. Now imagine if you go to Yelp, when I went to a few years back, I did this. I looked at Yelp and how many daycares were on there, and it was like 12 in my area, when actually there were close to about 35, 40 daycares in the area. They were just not showing up. So parents start chasing after this small little cluster of daycares that they see online, and they have waiting lists and the rates keep getting higher and higher. But really, we're not giving childcare rates an opportunity to equalize. see. Jordan, did you see any other questions there?
The other questions mainly pertain to workers' comp and if they are required to carry workers' comp, even if their employees are family members. Technically, the rule in California, the law states that if you are using labor, even if they are a family member, then by law, technically, you must be securing workers' compensation insurance. Again, you know, that's, I will admit and tell you that I don't think every single person in the state of California who works with their significant other or their spouse, they're securing workers' comp. There are some loopholes. Generally, if they are a stakeholder or a partner of the LLC, if there is an LLC or something like that, then they can be excluded and you don't have to. So there are some loopholes like that. But generally, if it's a family member, especially if they don't live in the home, you definitely should be looking into workers' comp just to protect yourself. It's a lot cheaper now than it used to be. Workers' comp used to be insanely expensive. It's gotten cheaper over the years. So that's something to definitely look into.
Okay, and I think somebody was asking if we are definitely going to be, we are recording this meeting and we will definitely email it out to everybody as soon as we get an opportunity.
And I just want to let everyone know again that my email is always open. So if at any time anyone ever has any questions, even if they're not necessarily insurance related, if you're just looking for advice, I'm happy to always give it. I will leave my email in the chat again, so that if anyone has any questions and they want to reach out to me at any time, I'm pretty responsive. So I generally get back to everyone same day or next day, depending on what your question is. And I'll always, if it's a question I can't answer over email, I'll always make myself available to talk to you over the phone. So I will leave my email in the chat one more time. So if anyone wants to reach out to me, they can do so.
And again, everyone, I will be sending out all these links that we've shared with you. Please, we grow by your support. One of the biggest challenges that Jordan and I face in doing our advocacy work is that there is not really one place where we can reach out to you. So we grow this message through you sharing it with other providers. If you know a provider who has something to share for our watchdog program, the watchdog program only works if we get the data to collect it. So even if you've had issues with the CCR&Rs that they're not essentially giving you any business, or if you're having an issue at your own job, when centers and other places are not following the law, it hurts all of us. When they get their insurance claims and they were breaking the rules, that hurts the entire industry. So if there's anything that you need to report to the Childcare Advocacy Program, please do. We'll be sending out a bunch of links to you after this call. And please don't forget to register with Daycare. I'm going to hang around for a little bit, but if anyone wants to unmute and has any more questions, I'd love to hear it. But aside from that, Jordan, anything else?
Nothing from me. Again, my email is out there. I look forward to hearing from anyone if they have questions. I'm always happy to chat, answer any questions anybody has. And I'm really grateful for everyone showing up tonight. I know it was a last minute thing, but just the fact that you guys were here to listen in and just be a part of it. I was surprised to see this many people. So thank you all very, very much for coming. We really, really appreciate it. Hold on.
So we have some questions. Patty, I apologize. I'm not, there's just a lot of questions in the chat and I'm talking, so I missed it. I think you're asking for the link for Daycare. So it's daycareowl.com. And as for somebody asking about the privacy policy on Daycare, we never sell your data. We never give your data to anyone unless, for example, if you sign up for Force of Nature, I would call and verify with you that I could give Force of Nature your information so they could mail you a kit. But we never sell your data in to any other vendor. If anything, they have to go through us if they want to reach you. And Patty, you were asking for universal TK in childcare. Do you want to unmute in California? Jordan, is that, I was wondering if you were going to discuss the impact of TK funding in California. Patty, if you want to unmute and educate us a little bit more about this, I apologize. I am not 100% familiar with this.
Hi, sorry about that. I was washing dishes, so my hands were wet. Well, yeah, it was just, so in California, they just passed like $850 billion for universal TK in the state. So that happened, the governor did that in the summer. And now all of us are devastated because none of the 4-year-olds are coming to school any longer. So every single person I know who has an in-home daycare, or even all the regular preschools, in a partnership, we have 100 preschools that talk regularly, and everybody's really feeling the impact of, everyone just thinks that their kids should just go to universal TK, that's what we should do. So I was just wondering if you had any thoughts on that, or if anybody's looking at or addressing that. But it's enough to make me want to maybe leave the industry, because we've always had 12 kids and a huge waiting list, and now we have 4 kids going into September. And
is the TK essentially, so Tessie, go ahead, Tessie, feel free to unmute. Is the TK essentially like the Head Start programs?
No, it's for the LA, the teachers union pushed for it. And so it's in every public school in the state of California is offering TK.
Got it. So basically, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I believe that they just started it this year, and the plan is to steady roll it out so that all 4-year-olds by I think it's like 2025 or 2027 or something like that, it'll be available to.
Right.
This is one of those things where, I have to be honest and tell you that I think that this was just a byproduct of the COVID and all of that money that was granted.
Right.
I don't think that this is going to be a long-term thing. I really don't think that this is going to end up being the industry standard thing over time that people just do. But that's my personal opinion. I mean, especially in California, every year things change here. So it's really, really tough to see. And personally, I do think it's also going to vary by region. I think it's going to depend on where you are, where you're located, because I've heard from people like yourself where it's affected them. And I've actually heard from some people that they haven't been affected at all. But it also could depend on, maybe there are people who don't take care of many, kids in that age range. So
Okay.
Fortunately, it's one of those things that's still kind of new.
Well, thank you.
Hi. Can you hear me?
I can hear you, Tessie.
Hi. Okay. So before I start, I actually did a panel. I was on the panel for you talking about universal TK at the CAA EYC conference. I'm actually the Family Childcare Committee Chair for CAA EYC. I'm also the National Association of Family Childcare state rep for Southern California.
Oh, awesome.
So we have been talking about this. So what the big push is for mixed delivery, so that family childcare providers do not get left out, which was the big thing that I kept talking about at the panel. We're trying to make sure that because they've been pushing for this since before the pandemic. What ended up happening was, because of the pandemic and childcare centers closing, they were able to get more of a push so that they could do what they wanted in the first place. Whether it's sustainable, it may, because it's happening and because what childcare centers and family childcare homes are being affected, it's probably going to end up doing damage before anybody catches on, if they don't do something about the mixed delivery system which is what we've been advocating for. We should be able, because I only do preschool pre-K in my home. So I can have 12 children and everything. I just found out that the local school district has made it so that children who do not have birthdays until March and turn 4 until March can start enrolling in TK. So they are coming after the 3-year-olds. They are trying to send 2-year-olds to the state preschool and everything. So if you are a provider, please make sure that you are in these stakeholder meetings, that you are on government calls, because they are making these moves. And if we don't get loud, they're going to keep steamrolling and not paying attention to what's happening to us. So while I'm not being super affected right now, I don't know if that'll change during the summer, because they did change this rule. And I'm literally one of the only family childcare providers that's doing preschool pre-K.
Tessie, please do join our thought leaders board. And this is exactly what we're talking about, right? Which is that we are not being heard because we're showing up. We need to individually, we need to say 100,000 childcare providers are against this, that it will gravely impact our industry, because when we just say it's just one or two here and there, like we need to be unified as an industry. Margarita, please, you have something to say?
Yes, I do. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. My thing was that we have CCRC out here in the San Fernando Valley. I learned from the parents that they are told that they need to put their children into Head Start. They have CCRC Head Starts around the whole valley, and that they need to put their children into Head Start, otherwise they'll be taken off the subsidy programs. And they also have, besides the Head Starts for pre-K, they also are opening many childcare centers with a CCRC name on them. And they're filling up their centers, and they're pulling the kids from the daycares to put into the pre-K, to the Head Starts. And then this is what's happening, where a lot of the providers don't have any children left in their home to care for. So I just wanted to mention that.
No, thank you. And please, as I mentioned, these are the things we need to know, because we deal with a vast geographical area of providers, and every area is different. And we need to know what are the big things that are impacting providers. So please come down to the Childcare Watchdog and tell us about your concerns. Join the community so we can have more conversations like this. Please join our thought panel. So that if this is a concern for you, we need to start reaching out to people, because what it really does sound like between these two conversations, that gosh, they're just really trying to take all the childcare into the government sector. Right? They're just trying to eliminate childcare as businesses altogether. And this is one of the largest employers. The childcare industry is one of the largest employers of women, and this is why it's such a overrun industry, and why we don't get the rights that we do. And we have to get under one umbrella, and we have to stand together.
Can I have a few words, please?
Yes, please.
Excuse me. Excuse me, my throat is so dry. I'm listening what Miss Margarita says, and I understand her concern and how she feels about it, but she only said on this side that what are they planning to do, and what are they already putting in plan, or how is it going to be coming? But we're not talking about the children. And we're not talking about all the children we have, since we're working with them with different situations, with different emotional things, with different, to follow, the whole child development in all. Concern is with those children that are just going to be moved because they put this in policy, or however they put it there. I don't consider it it's not just fair for the providers that are concerned losing them, but it's a concern for the child that is not reaching the milestones that need to be ready for that. You're going to hurt the child instead of helping them. That's one thing. And another thing, I tell all the providers, work hard, teach the children what they need to be learned, and put attention to those little details and work with them for them, and communicate to the parents what are you working with and where they're reaching, where they're learning, and don't worry about losing them. Thank you.
And Anna, you're absolutely 100% right. And that is why the childcare industry needs to improve, so we can provide the best quality care and have more childcare spots available for the children, right? Because right now kids can't even, it's just a two-sided thing, right? Where we've got providers losing children to Head Start programs and other programs, but also just like, kids who can't even afford to get into these other programs. And so it's a loss on both sides. And this is why we have to find a leveling place for this industry so we can have more childcare spots. I see Elena has her hands up, and then Tessie.
Yes, hi. I'm a family childcare provider in the Bay Area, in Contra Costa County. And I think advocating for providers, or educating them in the sense of how to speak to parents, what to lay out to parents of what they're learning. I think that is so important, because I've heard from like many years, I have 15 years in the industry, and you have no idea if you put yourself like out there to these parents from the beginning, then there's no room for them to, understand and say, oh no, my child has to go elsewhere, because you have to be able to demonstrate every week, every day if possible, what the child is learning and what your plan is, from the beginning, from 0 to 5, and, give them proof of that with, in writing, in different ways, communicating with the parent, and then we wouldn't have that problem. But a lot of the times, we are secluded in our own little world, and we don't have a lot of information, what these parents, want or need. And so then the parent, there's these big centers where they advocate for their business and what the child's going to learn. And so the parent, of course, is going to say, oh, they're going to be able to learn more over here. And in reality, it's not, because we've been with them from the beginning. We've, taught them all these things. We know about them. It's just putting them together and voicing them out to the parents. I think that's where we as providers and leaders have to help each other so that they are able to provide this information to the parents. And then we wouldn't have as much of a worry as we're having now.
So Elena, thank you so much. And again, please join our childcare thought leaders, because this is exactly what I'm talking about. You made a very good point. See, if you came into this industry and you're just like, I wanted to be a childcare provider, you didn't really have to go to school. You didn't have to learn a lot of things to become a childcare provider. And it's like, who teaches the providers? Who takes that responsibility to be like, this is the right way to do this? I'll give you an example. I recently just created something and we sent it out to everyone. And this is how we get everyone on the same page, which is not necessarily about education, but it was about clean diaper in, clean diaper out. Right? That should be a standard childcare policy. And I see so many providers struggling with this online. We actually had to make something, and we basically sent it out to not just the providers, but to the parents. So they know now too, right? Education on both sides. We need providers like yourself to come to the forefront and be like, this is what providers need to do. And then we need to provide them. This is why we have to be under one umbrella, because we can create a shared childcare, right? Where we're all trying to do the same things, where every provider knows, hey, I need to educate my parents every single day. This is what I have to do. This is what the game plan is. And they shouldn't have to, because one of the reasons why early childhood education is affordable is because it's a low barrier to entry. But we need to give providers 100% the tools they need to be successful. Is it Angelica?
Sure, thank you. So there is a big word here we're missing, which is segregation. The most important part about this plan is that before parents had a choice to send the kids to the schools, different family childcare, whatever they wanted with the voucher. But now they've been redirected to the places that are designated only for the low-income children who qualify for the universal preschool. And the big problem is that they are getting segregated without losing the ability to connect with all the economical and cultural diversity that is available for everyone. We know that especially in California, it's very, very marked the line between culture also and socioeconomics. And one of the main losses is that the children won't be, well, the parents won't be able to choose anymore. They're gonna be feed into certain places, and the ratio is going to be 1 to 20. In case you didn't know, it's going to be at least 1 to 20, so the quality of the care goes lower. And many of us FCCs used to have a good combination between private and ELS or voucher families. So with that, we keep the balance, and it was our only chance to access diversity, socioeconomic diversity, because it is not easy, especially in places like where I am in San Francisco. But with this decision, we are losing that. We're losing the one window we have to access socioeconomic diversity, because the agencies for referrals hold all the agenda, all the network, all the list of the parents who are going to be referred or not. And unfortunately, the families that we want to access, the low-income families, probably will be even farther out of our reach, because they're getting redirected to these certain programs, or those few ones who are licensed to do the pre-K. So this is a big issue also about social justice, and people is not being seen, doesn't notice how important it is that families are losing their choice, their ability to choose, which is a major issue. And what's going to happen later in the future? Well, all the kids who can pay private tuition will be in one place, and all the ones who get redirected to the state-funded programs go in a different place. But we all know actually the access in the social and economic chain is linked into the connections they make from childhood, to be able to actually access all kinds of sources of education and social skills and connection, when all the diversity get mixed together, so they grow as understanding each other's cultures and backgrounds. So that's the main part we're losing, and with that is going our society. So it's definitely a political issue too, and a legal issue for us too, because when we don't have access diversity, we are more target for also suits, because it depends of who is coming to our childcares, things change. So anyways, I just wanted to point at that, because we are not putting enough emphasis on that, and I think that is our biggest argument. Are we seeing segregation in California with this initiative? And the big answer is yes. And the people who is part of the belt of poverty, which is FCCs, serving other families in the belt of poverty, are even losing more. And we are also expected to finance the gap in the vouchers. We create a scholarship. Basically, we request a different amount of money from private to the government vouchers. But we are not a nonprofit. We're not able to actually fundraise giving the tax deductible receipts, because we don't even have that capacity. The government does not allow us to do that, but at the same time, the government expects us to come up with a gap. So who pays that? Your family.
Yep.
So our families pay that gap. Besides, now all the kids are getting redirected to other places, losing the opportunity to choose the quality of the program they want to go. So 2 things I leave for you. Hopefully we can continue this discussion somewhere else too. Thank you.
So Angelica, please join our thought leaders. You understand this so well. And my partner is on this call, and he's going to yell at me for telling you this later. But one of my biggest goals for Daycare Out, and why I don't talk about it yet, is because we haven't done this. We want to take all subsidized parents and anonymize their data and we want to put money in their account that comes straight from the government. We want to cut out the CCR&Rs, no middleman, whatever a parent takes. And so they don't have to basically go to anyone and say, I am a subsidy parent. They can walk in proudly with their head held high, knowing they have this much money per month to pay for childcare, and they can find the childcare that meets their needs. And that is doable. We can do this with technology. One of the biggest reasons why I created Daycare is because there is such a huge rift. And I know exactly where the system is broken. You know, they need this. They need to keep daycares under. They need a certain amount of you to not be doing well so we can have low income people so they can work at their McDonald's, right? We need to have low income people. It's part of a really bad design. And you're absolutely right. We're getting worse and worse. And this is why we all need to get together. We can't do this without you. You know, in the 6 years I've done this company hasn't even bought me a cup of coffee. I was given. And I do this because I'm fundamentally committed to change. I am fundamentally a believer that if we fix childcare, if we use technology to fix childcare, that we can make the world a better place. We can help the low income. We can help minorities. We can help single parents. We can help such a diverse group of people if we just gave childcare the respect and the rights that it deserved. Elena, you have a question? All right, I think that is everything, guys. You're going to be getting an email from me. Please register your facility with Daycare, and we will hopefully be in touch soon. Look forward to getting some emails for us. Thank you so much for being part of this call. Jordan, thank you so much. Really appreciate it, guys. We'll send you a recording soon.